Have you ever pondered the role machines play in our lives? We wake up to alarms set on our smartphones, we brew coffee in a machine, we use cars, buses and trains to commute, and most of us spend our day in front of a computer screen. But what happens when our reliance on machines goes beyond these daily tasks? Picture this: a world where machines replace soldiers on the battlefield. No longer would families bid tearful goodbyes to their loved ones heading off to war. No longer would the news be filled with stories of lives lost in battles far away. Instead, we would have robots, emotionless, fearless, and tireless, fighting our wars for us. A scientist named Edward proposes this very idea at a high-level government meeting. He shows off his new invention, robots clad in military uniforms, equipped with the latest and most dangerous weapons. He assures the president and the military officials present that these robots can withstand any amount of gunfire. They won't retreat, they won't surrender, they will simply eliminate the enemy. But a young officer named Marco raises an important point. What about the living, breathing soldiers who can think, make decisions, and feel emotions? Won't they be rendered jobless? Edward laughs this off, arguing that emotions have no place in a battlefield, and it's not his problem if soldiers are left unemployed. They can find other jobs. This narrative highlights two key implications of relying heavily on machines. First, while machines can indeed perform tasks more efficiently and without the burden of emotions, they lack the ability to think, make decisions, and most importantly, feel. Second, a heavy reliance on machines could lead to job displacement, leaving many without a means to earn a livelihood. In conclusion, while machines have indeed made our lives easier and more convenient, it's crucial to consider the potential implications of relying too heavily on them. Machines may be able to replace humans in performing certain tasks, but they can never replace the human ability to think, feel, and make decisions. And while the idea of a world where machines fight our wars may seem enticing, it's important to consider the potential consequences, including job displacement and the devaluation of human life and emotions. It's a delicate balance to strike, but as we continue to advance technologically, it's one we must constantly.
In a moment of solemnity, Marco declared, "I want to tell you a story." Edward John, equally serious, responded, "All right, I'm taking you to my favorite restaurant today. We'll have lunch together." They both set off in Edward John's car. After placing the food order, Edward John said, "The story should be brief, I'm quite busy." Marco replied, "Yes, sir, very brief. You might remember a few years ago, our headquarters were suddenly attacked by enemies. Had our soldiers not been vigilant, we would have suffered significant losses. Even so, many of our soldiers were killed. We chased them, firing into the jungle. Suddenly, the firing ceased. I waited a bit and then emerged from behind the trees. Suddenly, a whizzing bullet hit me in the stomach. I stumbled and fell into the river." Edward John said, "Yes, I was informed about the incident. Then you returned fit and well 6 months later. You had told me that you had drifted to a nearby village. You were treated in the village and returned fit and well." Marco smiled and said, "Sir, you are a very knowledgeable person. Indeed, I drifted to a village near the enemy's border. When I regained consciousness, a child was sitting next to me. Seeing me come to senses, he shouted joyfully, 'Granny, Uncle has regained consciousness.' An elderly woman came over. She checked my fever and said, 'Thank God you have regained consciousness after 20 days. How do you feel now?' I replied, 'I'm fine, madam, I was shot.' The woman said, 'Yes, our village doctor is very experienced. He has treated you well.' She took care of me like a mother. The boy also became attached to me. I was well on the way to recovery. The woman handed me my uniform. I had been wearing her son's clothes until then. She put her hand on my head and blessed me. I also patted the boy affectionately. Suddenly the door opened and the face that appeared in front of me left me speechless. He too, upon seeing me, was stunned. Suddenly he pointed his gun at me. The woman came in front of me. The man said, "Auntie, move, he's our enemy." The woman said, "But right now he's our guest." I also realized who he was when I saw his uniform, but he was injured and unconscious at that time. "Have I taught you to be cruel?" The man said, "If I were in his place, he would have already killed me." The woman said, "What happens on the battlefield is different, but if someone needs our help, we will surely help them, even if they are our enemy. I have entrusted Varus with the responsibility. He will safely escort him across the border." He lowered his gun. I extended my hand towards him. After a moment's hesitation, he shook my hand, and I was safely escorted across the border. Marco fell silent. Edward John had been listening to this story attentively. He took a deep breath and said, "I understand the purpose of your story. That humans understand each other's feelings. Only humans have the ability to decide what to do when." In the meantime, they had finished their lunch. As Edward John got up, he said, "Let me drop you home." Marco sighed deeply. Near the house, getting out of the car, Marco said, "When I was leaving, the boy said to me, 'Uncle, I won't become a soldier when I grow up. They kill people. I will become a doctor like Grandma who saves people's lives. The noble woman never told me that she was my healer." Saying this, Marco got out of the car. In the evening, a message from Edward John came on Marco's mobile phone. "Dear Marco, machines certainly can't replace humans, but by using them for good deeds, they can be greatly beneficial, right?" Marco sent a smiling reply. "Thank you very much.